Hello, and welcome back to this episode of the Happier Ever After series. Today, we're talking about something that can be unexpectedly painful after loss, other people's reactions. Not your grief, not your feelings, but the responses, comments, silences, and behaviours of the people around you. Because while grief is deeply personal, it doesn't happen in isolation. And for many people, one of the hardest parts of life after loss is not just the absence of their loved one, but navigating the world of other people once that loss has happened. If you've ever felt hurt, confused, angry, or deeply alone because of how others have responded to your grief, this episode is for you. And I want to say this right at the start. If other people's reactions have made this harder for you, that does not mean you're being too sensitive. It means you're human. After a loss, many people are shocked not only by the grief itself, but by how differently others show up or don't. Some people disappear, some people avoid the topic entirely. Some say things that land badly, even if they're well intentioned. Some expect you to be better far sooner than feels possible. And often, none of this is talked about openly. So people carry a second layer of pain, grief, plus the hurt of feeling misunderstood, unsupported, or alone in a room full of people. One of the most common experiences after loss is a sense that people don't know what to do with you anymore. They may feel awkward, afraid of saying the wrong thing, uncomfortable with pain they can't fix, and rather than risk getting it wrong, they withdraw. That withdrawal can feel deeply personal. You might find yourself thinking, did I do something wrong? Have I become too much? Do people not care anymore? I want to gently pause that line of thinking. Most people are not withdrawing because you don't matter. They're withdrawing because grief makes them face things they'd rather avoid: loss, vulnerability, mortality, their own fears. That doesn't make it okay, but it does help explain why it happens. Another common experience is being met with platitudes, phrases like, they'd want you to be happy. Everything happens for a reason. At least they're no longer suffering. You're so strong. These comments are often meant to comfort, but they can land as minimizing, dismissive, or painfully out of sync with where you are, especially when you're not feeling strong or grateful or ready to think about happiness. If you've ever felt irritated, hurt, or angry when someone said something like this, you're not unkind or ungrateful. You're responding to a mismatch. Grief doesn't need reframing in the early or middle stages. It needs witnessing. And many people simply don't know how to do that. Another reaction that can be particularly painful is when people stop mentioning your loved one. They stop saying their name. They avoid memories. They change the subject if you bring them up. Often, this is done out of fear, fear of upsetting you, fear of reopening wounds. The impact can be profound because it can feel like your loved one is being quietly erased. And that can bring up a deep sense of loneliness. You might feel as though you're carrying something precious that has nowhere to go. I want to say this clearly. It is okay to want your loved one to be remembered. It's okay to want their name spoken. It's okay to feel hurt when that doesn't happen. You're not clinging to the past. You're honoring a relationship that mattered. Another layer of complexity comes when people project expectations onto you of grief. They may have ideas about how long it should last, what it should look like, what you should be doing by now. These expectations are rarely spoken outright, but they're often felt. You might notice people becoming less patient, less attentive, more eager for you to move forward. And when you don't meet those expectations, you may feel judged or like you're failing. This can create pressure to perform, to pretend that you're okay, to edit yourself, and to hide parts of your experience. And that can be incredibly isolating. I want to be very clear here. You are not responsible for managing other people's discomfort around your grief. Your pain does not need to be palatable. Your timeline does not need to make sense to anyone else. Another painful reaction many people encounter is comparison. Well, my friend lost their partner and at least you had so many number of years together. Others have it worse. Comparison can invalidate your experience in subtle ways. Grief is not a competition, loss not to be ranked, and comparison does not bring comfort. If you've been on the receiving end of this, it's understandable if you've pulled back or gone quiet. Protecting yourself is not avoidance, it's self-preservation. I also want to acknowledge something that doesn't get said enough. Sometimes other people's reactions change your relationships permanently. Not all relationships survive grief. Some people surprise you with their depth and presence. Others fade in ways that are painful and unexpected. This can feel like a secondary loss, and it's okay to grieve that too. Letting go of relationships that no longer feel safe or supportive doesn't make you bitter. It means you're responding to what you need now. Another difficult aspect of other people's reactions is when they expect you to be grateful for help doesn't actually help. Offers that are vague, support that comes with conditions, advice that feels intrusive. It can be hard to voice discomfort when someone believes they're being kind. And so many people swallow their feelings rather than risk being seen as difficult. If that resonates, I want you to know this. You are allowed to have boundaries in grief. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to choose who you share with. Grief changes your capacity, and that matters. I also want to speak to something subtler. Sometimes people don't react badly, they just don't react enough. They don't ask how you are anymore. They assume you're fine. They stop checking in, and this can feel like abandonment. And it can leave you questioning your worth. If that's been your experience, please hear this. Other people's silence does not reflect the value of your grief or your love. It reflects their limitations, not yours. Navigating other people's reactions after loss often requires a level of emotional labor you didn't ask for. You may find yourself educating others, managing their emotions, reassuring them that they didn't say the wrong thing. That can be exhausting, and it's okay to step back from that. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you grieve. I want to gently remind you of something. You are allowed to change how you relate to people after loss. You may need more honesty, more space, more depth, or fewer interactions altogether. That's not a failure of character, it's an adjustment to a changed life. If, as you're listening to this, you feel sadness, anger, or relief at having this named, pause for a moment. Notice your body, notice your breath. Notice that you're not alone in this experience. Many people struggle with other people's reactions after grief. It doesn't mean you're difficult. It means you've been through something that makes others uncomfortable. And that says more about our culture than about you. If you'd like some support as you navigate life after loss, you can explore the guides that are available. There's links in the show notes to the Happier Ever After Hub. You'll also find in the hub resources for supporting others, calming your central nervous system. You are allowed to grieve honestly. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to need what you need. So thank you for being here with me today. I'll be with you again in the next episode. Until then.